It's Tuesday evening and it's 6 p.m. UK time. This is the Spiritual Discussion Program. I'm Saad in Southeast London and with me is Gregory. Gregory, how are you doing?
Hello,
Welcome.
fine here.
Good. So here in London, the weather right is dark again, of course, at this time. It's been warm today. Well, warm compared to, let's say, normal weather. It's 12 degrees in London. Um, I'm trying to remember if it was overcast or not. I think it was a bit overcast, but yes, quite mild. How is it where you are and where are you today?
It's in Brussels. It's a bit colder.
Oh, colder. Okay, okay. All right. So, welcome, listeners. As I said, this is a spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Uprushi. And we have a new topic every week. The topic for tonight is, do demons exist? Do demons exist? You're welcome to join us with any questions or comments. The number to contact us on our UK number, it is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. I'm going to begin with, what is the Grail Message? The Grail Message, in the Light of Truth, by Uprushi, is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life. For through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail Message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized, and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover, through the intuitive perception, if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail Message, Uprushi. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail Message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole, without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail Message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. Dear listeners, just want to remind you, the topic we're discussing tonight is, do demons exist? Do demons exist? You can join in the discussion with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. Gregory, this topic about demons, I mean, it sounds a bit strange in this modern world. Somebody can even, I mean, they use the phrase demons. It's not like an alien word, but in this modern world, nobody seems to, we just ignore it or think of it as fantasy. Now, I don't want to go straight into the definition of demons right now. I want to just start with the question that we've asked, do demons exist? And then I want to go through what people perceive or what is, let's say, the current thinking of the humanity. What is a demon, or what are demons, and what is it about, basically? So the first question, Gregory, as I said, people think it's, let's say, a lot of people, let's say, not everybody, thinking that this word demon or the concept of demons is like a fiction. So my first question, Gregory, is, do demons exist?
Well, first, thanks for these questions, which provide an opportunity for clarity. In this forum, our discussions are based on the framework of light and of truth. Therefore, in that context, we'll strive to provide answers to some of the questions which will be asked. When that question comes out, do demons exist? Most likely, the answer should be yes, because there are some things which exist in the imagination of some, that they have thought about it means in their thoughts it might exist there because they have some type of notion. They can already imagine, that is in their imagination, which imagination exists. So one is likely to say these things exist. The question is, what is the relation of what many talk about Where do they come from? What impact do they have? And when one then considers this and strive to have a proper framework such that there is clarity, then each person must then answer the question, do demons really exist? Or these are just figments of imagination?
Thank you very much for your opening answer of, in this introduction, how we started today in the show, because, life is about exploring. And the way you answered that question, it might look weird for some that, it exists in our imagination. But then we can say it does exist, at least in that form. So, it is a notion, and people have it as a notion, as you said. So in that sense, it does exist. But as we will continue, we will explore it, as you say, in the light of truth, and also, in a framework that we will just, and having a framework from which we are able to understand what this is, what are demons, where do they come from. So what I will do, Gregory, now, I'm going to say what they say the general public, or go into the dictionary, let's say, like I normally do, and get a definition from there, and then we explore it from there, and then, see how it accords with, let's say, in the light of truth, or as we say, with the light and truth. So, Gregory, I looked up the word demons in the dictionary, or demon, and it gave me a lot of different, not different definitions, but quite a few definitions within that word. So the first one, I will go slowly, Gregory, because there's like 4 different examples of it. So the first one, Gregory, it says, a demon is an evil spirit. And also it goes on to say angels and demons. It's like the opposite of an angel is a demon. That's another part of the definition. And it's considered as a source or an agent of evil, harm, distress, or ruin. So I'm going to stop there. Just let's look at that. So Gregory, is a demon, according to the dictionary, this is only part of the definition, an evil spirit, which is, let's say, let's start with that. Evil spirit, which is the opposite of an angel. Looks like angels are a good being, and demon is the, let's say, I don't know how to put it, opposite of an angel, or some another being, which is a like angels are, let's say, it doesn't say it in the definition, but it seems to imply angels are good beings, while the demons are, you could say, evil beings, an agent of evil, harm, distress, or ruin.
From the dictionary outlook, one thing stands out. That which is referred to as demon is no good. It stands for destruction. That one becomes very clear. However, that does not, explain how these came into existence. Have they been in existence from the beginning of creation? Or how did they come in? Now and then you hear of demonic influence and all sort of, even in the so-called areas of technology, you have this notion of demon. These are more or less self-acting processes So it is not tied to men's imagination alone. When in the so-called information technology area or engineering, one hears of self-acting demon, the same pronunciation but spelled slightly differently. You have the notion of threads which are able to affect other processes on their own. So generally, the notion had been taken in, but the source or the origin of these demons is what has not been looked into.
Thank you.
In the first instance, okay.
I'm sorry. Yes, okay. I just intervened slightly there. You mentioned from the information technology arena or field that they have also something called demon with different spelling, which is a self-acting. Did you say program? Threads. So just to understand, but are they well? Maybe that's a very strong word. When in this IT arena, are those demons the ones which are used there, self-acting? Can you repeat that? Self-acting program? Did you say?
Threads.
So those threads, I just want to understand. Okay, I'm not quite clear what the word thread means in this context. So, can you just go further? What do you mean by threads? Just to get the clarity there.
When the word threads are used, these are line of energy, or these are paths which energy takes, which have an influence on the immediate environment. So when they say threads are spun, that means you have spun threads. It means you have created a line of activity in which sometimes it becomes independent and can have an influence on others. So that's in general what threads are.
Okay, that's good. Thank you for that. The only thing I want to ask there, because in the definition from the dictionary, I was finding the tendency of the demons or tendency or the way they act is in evil way. But when the IT form of demon, in that field, what would be the type of activity? I doubt it would be an evil. So I just want you to just go there, explain that as well. So, because in the discussion for today, when we are talking about do demons exist, are we referring to all the versions of demons? You could say like it says in the dictionary, evil spirit, or let me say.
Actually, there has been so much confusion about that expression demon that anything which seems to be unsavory is entitled a demon. Therefore, it is important to build up the conception very carefully. As we all know, every human personality has thoughts. And your thoughts affect you. The way you think affects you. And therefore, when somebody sees that you are happy, it means there are some thoughts which you harbor which give that expression of happiness. At the same time, when one observes another person being sad or in horror, the thoughts which no one can see physically, those thoughts are there. And those thoughts, one may refer to them as lines of activity, which one may often refer to as threads. Which threads or lines of energy affect the individual? They do not affect others directly. So the thinking, the thoughts which you harbor affect you personally. It can be happy thoughts, it can be sad thoughts, it can be evil thoughts. If these thoughts are evil thoughts, sometimes they are referred to as phantoms, which thoughts persist depending on how you supply them energy. If before too long one is so hooked up to terrible thoughts, then in some cases it affects the person psychically to the verge of madness. All these are well known. However, no one is able to hold thoughts in their hands or to see the thoughts in their forms, as of not now anyway, but they do exist. Or should one deny that thoughts do not exist because one is unable to hold them and mold them with one's hands? That would be wrong. However, we know thoughts affect the individual personality, and everyone can testify that these thoughts are there within the brain or within the environment of the brain. And sometimes a different nomenclature is given to them, and say these thoughts form phantoms. And sometimes when people have taken so much alcohol or something, they see all sort of weird forms which they cannot, and those ones sometimes are referred to as thought forms. So thoughts exist. Which thoughts affect the individual? That is the first step.
Thank you, Gregory, for going into this explanation. Yes, I mean, probably people don't think about thought forms deeply. We talk in general, you know, people say that, oh, somebody might be depressed, and, you know, a lot of heavy thoughts have affected them. And at the same time, you can say, watch some sports and you get inspired. Let's say, for example, Olympics, and you see something great, somebody doing, you know, their skills, showing their skills, and you know, winning a medal, and then there's a lot of children watching that, or even other people watching, adults watching that, get really inspired and say, oh, I want to do this. You know, there's a motivation there. So you can see, yes, thoughts can really be powerful in their impact. Now, I just want to be clear, you mentioned there, Gregory, about phantoms, which is, you could say, are, if I say it in brackets, negative or evil or terrible, as you use the word terrible thoughts. So can I ask you, when we talk of demonic, you know, when the people use the word demonic, you know, and that's what in the dictionary we keep finding is, each time you use the word demon, it's thought of as something evil. So is, according to what we are discussing in our spiritual discussion, Gregory, is a demonic or demon, our thoughts if we consider demons to be thoughts as well, would you call them evil or good or neutral? Because or is phantoms, you defined it as evil, so is there special, let's say, some grouping of thoughts that we need to think about?
The illustration, the example which one gave, was only a first step to the clarification of what demons, or a first step leading to the clarification of what demons are and where they come from. In the discussion, one mentioned the brain substance, the intellect, and the intellect can form thoughts which are heavy, which weigh us down, thoughts which are light, which makes us happy, thoughts which are evil, which we hold deep within ourselves, which thoughts in our planning, we want to destroy others or whatever. These are all brain activities, intellectual activities. A second step is those thoughts which are non-material, which are non-intellectual, which are also connected to the human personality. Those thoughts which are not seen or perceived with the 5 physical senses, those ones are the intuitive thoughts. Those intuitive thoughts are non-material and generally are activities which are formed through the personality or the inner personality of man. For man indeed is of spirit. When those thoughts, those intuitive thoughts are generated and they take on form, should those intuitive thoughts be of high nature, which swing in accordance with the laws of creation, through which everyone is to be of benefit, those thoughts form structures, durable structures, which structures help to beautify man or help to elevate man. Should those thoughts be of evil nature, those thoughts are referred to as the demons, which demons have now come into existence through the activities of man. What one should understand is that the inner core of man, which is of spirit, has access to the neutral power which flows through creation from the source of all that exists, from the highest realm. This power, being neutral, is accessible only through the activities of the spirit of man. For this is spiritual power. When man makes use of his intuition to build structures which are of evil, these structures take on form because they are not of material and because the source which man has now put into it are that of spirit, they are capable of self-acting because they are able to draw strength or draw power also from that power which exists in creation, although only a much lower gradation of it. These structures become self-acting. These structures are referred to as demons. These structures can also affect not only the individual, but is able to affect others who are not strong within themselves to rebuff such structures. These are the forms which many a medicine personality is able to perceive, whether that personality is of low perception or of high perception. These forms are perceptible for those who in their activities are open to them. And therefore, you then find there are people who are so much afraid being impacted by these fear forms, which fear forms are referred to as demons. There are others who are also able to perceive these forms, hideous forms, which can have impact on others. These forms, referred to as demons, are different from the forms which have arisen from intellectual activities. For the forms that has arisen through the intellect only affect the individual who produced them, whereas the other forms which has been created through intense fear, through intense anger, through so many others which are of evil, which forms now have or are able to act independently, can also affect others other than the individual who produced them. For others are able to contribute like feeder roots into these forms, and therefore they form centers, which centers now have impact generally on mankind.
Thank you for your answer, Gregory. It's quite a lot you've said, so I will explore that further in a moment. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Uprushi. If you are interested in knowing more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is, do demons exist? Do demons exist? You are welcome to join us with any questions or comments. You can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. Gregory, you said a lot in the last answer, and I'm thinking I would like to break it down to, get deeper into it. You've talked about intellect there, thoughts being formed through the intellect, and you talked about our spiritual personality, or our spirit, basically our spirit, let's call it spirit, which also has its own intuitive volition or intuitive thoughts, which I know you've referred to in the past, volition. You use the word volition. And we are using the neutral power in creation in this in the functioning, or the functioning of the thought forms, I could say that way. I know I'm trying to summarize it in a way what you have said, and some of these thought forms, they affect individuals, some of them affect others, not just us individuals, as individuals, it can affect others. And obviously these thought forms, we don't see them, but they have really incredible impact. So you can imagine somebody who is, let's say, suffering or scared of something, they could be terribly affected. And anything you indulge in, Gregory, whether it's hatred, and we're talking about, let's say, the evil things at the moment, or let's say dark things, we can say it that way. You can see how things can explode, if I can say, from something small into something big. And similarly, so I gave the example with the Olympics, that people can be watching it, and or whatever sport they're watching, and they could be inspired. Somebody watching can be inspired, or let's say thousands and millions can be inspired because of the, obviously, with the technology that we have today. I'm not quite, I know it's not thoughts exactly there, but well, we have, when we watch something, we have thoughts resulting from what we're watching. So I guess that's one way you could see how it works. So you can see the the power of these thoughts there. However, I want to just go back to the way how, let's say, the general public looks at the world, or the word demon, and just correspond it to what we are discussing tonight in this discussion. So, Greg, I'd like to just go again to the dictionary definition of demon, because I didn't quite finish all the different meanings given there. You've referred to demons as thoughts. In the dictionary, there's no mention of that. It's more talking about, like I said earlier on, one definition gives an evil spirit, a source or agent of evil, harm, distress, or ruin. And then I'm going to go to the other meanings given here, which is mythology, a supernatural being whose nature is intermediate between that of a god, thus a god with a little g, and that of a human being. And another meaning they've said is one that has exceptional enthusiasm, drive, or effectiveness. The example they give is a demon for work. So that these definitions, Craig, they quietly, they don't seem to correspond at all with the definition you have been giving about thoughts there. Although it also makes sense that, people do say you can do demonic activity, and you can imagine that comes from thoughts as well. So I just want to understand, Gregory, when in the dictionary it is referring to evil spirit or a supernatural being who is intermediate between a god, which is a little g, and a human being. So can it also, demon, be referred to some being, Gregory? That's what I'd like to check with you.
In the discussion, one started very gradually, and there are two different categories. Categories is about structures. The domain of the first category is that of the earthly intellect or earthly brain. More precisely, the frontal brain, through which activities are coordinated so as to have an impact on physical activities. Thoughts arise. Thoughts condense. Thoughts may attract other thoughts or be attracted. That category is gross material, is affected, or the effects only has an impact on the individual as such, nourishing these thoughts. Very simple example. You gave the example of people playing football. Depending on the team, if your team is winning, you are happy. Yet, this is the same game which another person is watching that is supporting the other team. And because your team is winning and his team is losing, the person has some sadness. Those sadness are only an external reflection of the thoughts each of these participants harbor. One, gladness, joy. The other one, sadness, gloom. So one can already experience that these thoughts, which are of the intellect, of the frontal brain, has a direct impact on him or her who produces them. That is the first category. The second category are those ones one has referred to as intuitive thoughts. These intuitive thoughts are not of the first category, which is intellectual thoughts. These are the intuitions of men. This intuition must have come into existence through the activity of the individual. This activity may not be the external activity that you see, but deep within the human personality. The human personality is of spirit. His activities can be referred to as the intuitions, which are the structure the spirit has brought into being. These structures only came into being through the utilization of the neutral power which flows in creation, which neutral power is also of spirit. That being the case, these structures, which have been formed through the activities of the spirit, take on form. Forms, anyway, are structures. If these structures or if these forms are of evil intent, then a name is given to them as demons. Demons which subsequently, to some extent, are fed energy, envies. Like envy is a form of demon which takes on form. Anger, these are demons. These are subcategories of demons that one is referring to. However, these structures, these forms, also, because of their nature, are able to have access to the weakened form of the power that flows in creation, and are able to have an impact not only on the person who produced them, but also on other human personalities. So that is a big difference. Sometimes you have a scenario where the human personality makes use of the power that flows through creation to create benevolent spirits, so-called, or benevolent entities. On the one hand, we have the creation or the formation of benevolent entities which subsequently become self-acting. Benevolent not only to the individual that formed them, but also to others. These are helpful entities. Also, you have the creation of demons, which become self-acting containers. of hatred, of envy, of wickedness. These forms generally are categorized as demons. They are self-acting and they have impact on those other personalities, all other human personalities, not only of the producer. However, just as you yourself cannot see, cannot hold thought forms of the intellect in your hand, so also you cannot hold these envies, thoughts, or this intuitive form of envy, of wickedness. You cannot hold them in your hands, but you yourself perceive that they exist. So when the question comes, do they exist? Of course they exist. Now let's for each individual personality to reflect deeply into it, and in the process of doing that, to walk in the light of truth. For light is of substantiality. For light is used in creating forms. For light is that which binds, and then of truth. For truth, for that which is truth, remains the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And the truth is the law. So the working together of light and truth, in it arises life itself, as the truth and the light are only expression of the power that streams through creation. Now, maybe it becomes a bit clearer what the human personality is here to in making use of the power, the neutral power that streams through creation, what he himself or herself has formed as structures in creation, which then has an impact on the lives of men here or hereafter.
Thank you for that explanation and answer, Gregory. I mean, what I'm clear from what you have said is that we are forming the thoughts, and you've got the two variety of thoughts, the intuitive ones and the intellectual ones, or spiritual thoughts and the intellectual thoughts, which are forms. And, depending if it's of the good, you could say pure or good variety, if I can say good, pure, maybe is a better way to say. You can have that, or you can have an evil thought. Then correspondingly, that's the form. I don't know how to put it, but that's the direction you'll go towards. How you'll be influenced, you can say. So from what you have said, the demons are actually forms rather than beings. Let's say there's some living being which you could call, a evil spirit as it's defined in the dictionary, or even, let's say, the opposite of a good angel is is a demon as it's defined there, and again in the dictionary there. So it's not really a being. It's and not even in this other one, which is they're calling it a supernatural being, intermediate between a god with a little g and a human being. So it's not any living being. It's you could say it's just a thought form, from what you have said. But it has influence and has impact. So I just want to say, explore what the people think. So let me go on another angle, Gregory. In the Islamic faith, they mention this jinn. That's the word they use, which are, and I'll just again use it in a dictionary meaning of the jinn given here, although in the Islam, I'm going to give that definition as well. So in the dictionary definition, it says in Arabian and Muslim mythology, an intelligent spirit of lower rank than the angels, able to appear in human and animal forms and to possess humans. So it appears in human and animal forms, according to this, Gregory. So I'm just wondering, are these thoughts that we have been talking about, the demons, I know the jinn is a different word to demon, because they don't have that word demon in the Islamic sort of faith. So they call, I'm just wondering, is that a jinn, what I'm describing here from the Islamic faith, Gregory, is that a thought that can turn into animal or human form or possess humans? I know we're going slightly on a tangent in a sense. So I just want to bring that in just to say, to rule it out as if it's a demon or not, or it's a totally separate thing. And then we need to not have to discuss that in tonight's sort of discussion.
In the first instance, it must be realized that the jinn you mentioned, from which we hear genie or genus nowadays, that expression predates way back before the advent of the religious faith now called Islam. That expression had always been there. And it must be realized that very long ago, the human personality, due to its development, one is referring to millions of years ago, not just thousands, was able to perceive to a large extent before the intellect took over and smoothed out all those fine impressions, was able to perceive forms which were non-intellectual, which were fairly non-earthly. They were able to perceive of these forms. There are some who later on are classified as medicine men because of their peculiarity of their blood radiation, were able to perceive and even see the activities which transcends the earthly. Of course, there are different beings. There are different entities which they were able to perceive. They were able to separate those entities which were of benefit to them personally and those other entities which were not of benefit to them, which caused so much destructions. The ones which were of benefit to them were mixed up with the higher beings, where they are now referred to as angels or non-angels. Of course, there are categorization as one leaves the earth and moves closer to the origin of creation, in which lies the paradise of man, where the human personality as a spirit germ originated in order to experience way down in the world of matter. Some of what they perceived were those beings which are at work in nature, those beings which prepared the world of matter and finally also prepared the earth before human personality incarnated. Of course, we all know that before human personalities incarnated, there were animals. Before the animals, there were plants. Before the plants, there were elements. There are workers in creation, different workers whose activities are for the formation and the maintenance of all these elements. Hence, you hear of the word elements or the elementals. These are nature beings who work unconditionally in the will of their creator. They are the faithful workers who weave in creation, in the world of matter, in ethereal matter, and also who weave in the formation of fire, of nature, as we perceive them. One should not confuse those ones with the thoughts or with the intuitive thoughts of men, which thoughts have now come, or now been formed through the neutral power in creation, which thoughts similar to envy, thoughts of hatred, thoughts of anger. These are real. They exist and they have effects. They have impact on those who brought them into existence, where they did not exist initially. Their power, which is granted to them as feeder roots by those who harbor envy, who harbor anger, who harbor wickedness deep within them in their spirits. They, in accordance with the laws of creation, these forms, they attract themselves to form something more insidious, such that they can have a more devastating effect on the personalities of those who allow themselves or who succumb to these invisible threads. That means invisible line of activities. That you cannot see it does not mean it does not exist. Just as you cannot see your physical thoughts, doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for your answer and giving again a deeper picture in this subject for tonight, which is do demons exist? Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdrushi. If you are interested in knowing more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, G-R-A-I-L, message, MESSAGE.com. And we're broadcasting on Bless Radio 1, the number 1.com. Also, we're broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, again the number 1, space live stream. That's for the live show. You can listen to the recording of this show and our other past shows. Again, go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1, space Grail Message, space the topic of the show, which tonight is Do Demons Exist? Also, there's another website you can also listen to us, which is zeno.fm/Bless Radio 1. So Zeno is ZENO.fm/Bless Radio 1, again the number 1. And just to remind you, the topic we are discussing tonight is Do Demons Exist? You're welcome to join us with any questions or comments. The number to contact us on our UK number, it is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00 44 79 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. Gregory, I've got a question from a listener. You talked about the thoughts of envy, hatred. I think you even mentioned fear and also anger. This listener is asking, is there not a righteous anger?
Hello?
Yes. I'll repeat. Did you hear that question?
I heard it. Is there not a righteous anger? That's an interesting question in the sense, when anger is mentioned, look at the process. Many a time in anger, it's as if one is blinded. And when one acts in such a state, that which is innocent and that which is not innocent are classified as one. And therefore, that which is innocent is then punished. So in that particular state, one will say that anger is not righteous, is not justified, for there must be restraint. If, however, one is talking about or is referring to as a figure of speech of righteous anger from the light, that only remains a figure of speech, which one may refer to as in reciprocity to what has happened. But ask yourself, where is the human personality who, in anger, is able to differentiate those who are genuine and those who are not genuine? It is more or less an impossible task for the human personality. Therefore, that expression, righteous anger, is only used as a figure of speech.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Gregory. The same listener has just sent another question. And I was actually going to go into that type of question myself, Gregory, we're talking about the topic of demons. Do demons exist? And, there are these, you could say, occult people. We have heard of wizards, witches, or magicians. I don't mean the magicians who do it as entertainment. I mean, when people want something to be done, whether good or evil, it can be good or evil, I guess. So I will just go directly to the question what the listener has sent in. He's saying, do so-called black magicians, black not referring to the race here now, it's the black magic as we refer. So do so-called black magicians use such demons to create havoc in creation? Okay, and there is a follow-up question on that. So I'll just repeat that, Gregory. Do so-called black magicians, not as I say referring to the race here, but black magic, use such demons to create havoc in creation?
In the first instance, when that expression, black magic, is used, it already paints the picture of something, of activities which are being carried out, which are not transparent. That means they are opaque. And that which is not transparent, they must likely be something which is unwholesome, which is not of benefit to the individual or to creation in general. That is why you hear these expressions, so-called black magic. That means not transparent. It doesn't mean it's tied to a particular race. It exists in all races, where human personalities who, because of their inner sensitivities, are aware of the existence of these intuitions of men, which some are beneficial and some are not beneficial, like the envy and the anger and the wickedness one has just mentioned. There are those who due to their, one would not say upbringing, but due to their constitution of blood radiation, are able to attract or repel, or to a large extent direct the effects of these power centers, which power centers can be generally referred to as demonic centers, to others who are not strong within themselves, particularly those who are of fearful nature. These latter ones are easily impacted. However, those who engage in these activities also bind themselves in reciprocity. So it carries deep within them responsibilities. For the laws of reciprocal activity is not annulled on that effect. Having directed to someone that which is of ignoble character, you yourself become like a shareholder to it. It means the time will then come where, through your further activities, you have to redeem yourself. You have to make good of the wrong you have done to your neighbor. Until that happens, you will be bound to that personality, here or hereafter.
Thank you for this answer, Gregory. In a way, you've sort of answered the follow-up question as well. However, I still want to ask you that, I just want to add something to that follow-up question. It says, how do we get rid of such muck? He's used the word muck. I think we're talking about the let's say the havoc that has been created by the you could say black magic. And before you answer that, Gregory, I was thinking there's also something called white magic. Again, not referring to the white race, but you could say for doing good. Black magic is for, let's say, dark activity, meaning evil. Let's call it evil, is in a simple way to put it. While white magic is say for good or for benefit. So, Gregory, the question actually is, how do we get rid of such, use the word muck?
Quite surprisingly, quite simple, but a lot of efforts need to be put into making right that which had been wrong. Like has been stressed much earlier, even in the teaching of Christ, when it says to love thy neighbor as thyself, which basically means that only that which is going to be of benefit to your neighbor, only that should you engage in your interaction with your neighbor. In that case, it means, therefore, whoever had indulged in such an activity must then strive to give purity to his further activities, which purity in thoughts, in deeds, will have an impact not only on himself or herself, but also to the general public, be it that person who had been impacted or some others. The continuity of building up deep within yourself that environment of noble deeds, of noble selfless deeds, will so strengthen deep within yourself spiritually. It will ensure that there is purity deep within you and around you subsequently. And in the walk, in the light of truth, this had been very well precisely expressed in keeping the heart of your thoughts pure. In so doing, you will bring peace and happiness. The heart is the center of your thoughts, the center of activity, which is, in the first place, spiritual activity, and subsequently, intellectual activities, which subsequently become deeds. In keeping it pure, that means to purify yourself, one should engage in high thoughts which swing in the upbuilding of nature, in the upbuilding of creation, which resonates in accordance with the laws through which you yourself came into existence. For it is out of love, in accordance with the will of the Almighty, that you, the human personality that started as a spirit gem, came into existence. Therefore, in following such a path, where the welfare of others, the welfare of fellow humans' personalities who, like you, have come into existence and are struggling for recognition, that welfare should be uppermost in your activities, just like others. In such a way, it will become one for all and all for one. In such a way, the human personality then builds that environment such that when the returns come, he himself or herself is no more in tune with such ignoble lines or such ignoble threads, depending on how he has improved himself. Some of these evil threads, which line of activities, when they then come, they are unable to penetrate to his inner being and do damage, because all the while he himself or herself has been, through his activities, been of benefit, not only to himself, but also to his neighbors. That is why that's advice, to love thy neighbor as thyself. Should you then ask, and who is my neighbor? Then go back to what Christ has said and examine it intuitively. There you will find the answer in accordance with light and also with truth.
Thank you, Gregory, for your answer. We started in the discussion, we've talked about the intellectual thoughts and the intuitive thoughts. And with regards to the demons, you could say demonic thoughts being evil thoughts. So I just want to clear, if somebody's had a spell put on them, let's say through black magic, which is a dark spell, somebody's out of hatred wants to hurt another person, and he goes to, let's say, I don't know how to put it, through some magician, black magician. I can't think of another way to put it, to put this spell on another person to harm them. Is it, from what you have said, it looks like just out of pure thoughts of purity that it can be countered. Would it not be more make sense that you would have to make a spell, let's say, from white magic to counter the spell from the black magic, because that would be like negating that? Or is it like it is, like you were saying, just by pure thought, which could be, I could say maybe a prayer could take the effect away of the effect of a black magic spell?
Most of the time, you have observers over exaggerating of these scenarios in which there's a spell on someone. When you look at it and examine it very carefully, as children, stories were told which have no basis, that one can cast a spell because of the comics they read or something, and that person is now mad, or that person had been possessed by a demon, and some spell was cast on that person, as if the person himself has no self-resistance. The resistance which a person has depends on his alertness, on his vigilance, and on his or her purity. Some of the discussions along the line of casting the spells are over-exaggerated. Else, why would people not then cast spells on diseases such that diseases will not affect them? Why will people not cast spells on hunger so that hunger will not affect them? People never ask these questions, but easily fall into stories which have been grossly exaggerated. Every personality, depending on their alertness, depending on their vigilance, depending on their purity, are able to defend themselves from some of these so-called neither activities from the nether regions by moving away. One of the things that can easily affect one is fear. For one who becomes so fearful, you now fall into a scenario where you are not so much alert, and therefore it is easy to tip the balance. But for those who are fearless, who are courageous, that which could have affected them will dissolve even before they get there. Therefore, you have expressions like go forward courageously. So all this casting of so-called black magic and white magic, you ask them, let them use those so-called black magic or white magic to ban hunger, to ban wickedness, to ensure that people are not hungry anymore, that people are not unwell anymore, to produce captions or contractions similar to the airplane that can take person from one place to the other without exerting so much, to ensure there is no wastages of food. No, you will never hear that. Therefore, whatever is said regarding so-called black magic or white magic should be taken with a grain of salt and should be examined thoroughly.
Thank you so much for that answer, Gregory. You made this painted a very clear picture, giving a very, there's a wide context or global context of how to see these things rather than just trap ourselves in narrow thinking. So thank you for that. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdushin. If you are interested in knowing more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And you're listening to Bless Radio. You can listen to us on the website blessradio1, the number 1.com. Also, you can listen on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again, space, live stream. That's for the live show. You can listen to the recording of this show also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1, space, Grail Message, space, the topic of the show, which tonight is, do demons exist? Also, you can listen to another website for the live broadcast, which is zeno.fm/Bless Radio 1. That's Zeno, ZENO.fm/Bless Radio 1, the number 1. And the topic we're discussing tonight is, do demons exist? You can join in the discussion with any questions or comments on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. Gregory, we've really got to see the impact of our thoughts, the intuitive thoughts and the intellectual thoughts, um, and it's quite powerful. Now, so far, Gregory, we've been talking about the impact on the earth, um, with our life on earth. How about the impact, Gregory, in heaven, um, or even hell, as some people, believe it exists there? So, can Gregory, the impact of our thoughts, intuitive or intellectual, have an impact? Well, I know we're on the earth right now. Can it reach to heaven and hell, these thoughts?
Again, the conception and the factual picture of heaven and hell must be rightly understood. Many times, what is beyond the earthly conceptions of space and of time is referred to as the beyond, which beyond the categories have not been defined. Or, to be more precise, the categories are defined as hell and heaven. That category is a fact, but it is not the truth. Hell exists, but is not an institution of the original creation. It's not an institution in accordance with the will of the Almighty. It is an institution which, through the activities of the intuitive perception, the structures, the forms which the intuitive perceptions have brought into being using the neutral power of the Lord Almighty, which power manifests as spiritual. It is those structures that have been dragged into envy. So we have forms of envy. That means in accordance with the attraction of those things that are homogeneous, envy energies precipitate or gravitate to a particular level where those who are in tune of envy partake of it here or hereafter, such that they can taste of it and see if it is of benefit until they sever themselves from it. The same thing happens to those of wickedness, to those of anger, to those of carelessness, to those of gossips. There are a whole range which can be discussed. These regions, or these nether regions, have come into being, and they have one common designation: vices. These vices, which have taken on form and have subcategories, is where the human personality allows itself to be drawn to in order to experience. On the other hand, those who have engaged in their intuitive perceptions, have engaged in noble deeds, and have also exhibited it here on earth, are drawn up in accordance with the laws of creation to higher realms where such activities predominate. For there, they will find kindred souls, kindred activities, and they will participate in it. So the conceptions of heaven and hell is correct. However, the real actuality of it has been cleverly distorted. For many will now consider that hell is a part of the creation, which creation has come into being in accordance with the will of the Almighty. That is not the case. Hell is only an institution of man.
Thank you, Gregory. So just to talking about demons, being thought forms, as we've said, would they exist in the heaven and hell? Would they be able to exist there and have an impact there?
Like we just mentioned, demons, by their nature, do not exist or are not capable of existing in heaven, but exist here on earth and in the nether regions. These demons do not exist forever. For these demons can only exist in the world of matter. Matter is temporal. Matter comes into existence through the work of the so-called animistic beings. Matter comes into existence and has a time limit where all that has come into existence in matter will go through a process of evolution, maturity, and subsequently dissolution to its primeval substances or primeval elements, where it starts again. Therefore, those structures which have been constructed, those structures born of envy, of wickedness, which are low in their vibrations, will have to be crushed, will have to be dissolved. And those who are so tied to them will lose their personality because they were not able to sever themselves in good time when matter now runs into the process of dissolution to its primeval substances. Therefore, one can safely say that which is of evil exists only in the world of matter, and that which is not of evil exists and can continue to exist, but evil subsequently will perish.
Thank you for this answer and picture, Gregory. I want to go again about the thought forms. That's quite a neutral expression, the word thought form. What I want to ask you, Gregory, if, and you talked about examples of thought forms which are demons, which are hate, anger, fear. The evil ones, you could say. What do these forms, Gregory, do they have particular look like? Do they look ugly? I know we haven't really sort of gone into that yet, but in our meeting, in our discussion. So, there's a good, you can have good thoughts, pure thoughts, you can have evil, hating, less like hatred, and so on. Do these thoughts, we call them thought forms, these thought forms look like a particular way? If it's something, let's say you have thinking of love, to help people, let's say, and then you have some thought to harm. In
the first case,
yeah,
when one considers, in quotes, love in the human sense, these are basically evil caricatures of what real love is. When you hear the word forms, thought forms, the picture you have when that expression form is used is structure. So there are structures, hence why one has been mentioning structures. Most of these structures sometimes are just exaggeration of what it should be, or hideous caricatures of what love should be. In the particular case of envy, the forms and the color can be easily discernible. Now, the particular personality who harbors this, sometimes that personality gives expression to these forms which take on the face, the facial expressions, or the bodily expressions of the personality who, one way or the other, brought that into existence. For it originated from him or from her. So also is wickedness. So also is carelessness. These have forms. These have forms which are solid forms. Because these forms are solid, radiations from out of the universe, which radiations are power manifestations, have an impact on these caricatures, on these hideous caricatures, which bear human faces, depending on who gave rise to them, and sometimes they take on animal faces or animal forms. But these are details which, for many who wish to investigate further may do so, but not advisable. So, yes, the structures are there.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. I'm just thinking. Yes, and we're coming to end, so I just don't want to get a very long discussion. But can these demons, Gregory, possess people? Because there are these ideas that people have. So can demons possess people?
Demons, strictly speaking, cannot possess people, because to possess is to take over the body form which the human personality uses. However, these demons can influence people. After all, look at the ordinary thought forms of the intellect. Mere football, one side is happy, the other one is terribly sad, and will be sad for 1 week. So you can see how the ordinary thought forms of the intellect influence people. People, like for those who are football fanatics. Of course, those thought forms which they cannot hold already have an impact on them, has an effect on them. Those effects can easily be perceived over a short period. For when a goal is scored, they are very happy. Within 10 seconds or another minute, another goal is scored against them, they are very sad. So you could see how these moods, how they swing. It doesn't last very long. However, the intuitions of men have a much longer impact and are durable over a long period, not only here, but also hereafter.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. Now, can you give an example, Gregory, of demons in these thought forms drive? You've talked about example of demons influencing individuals, let's say a few individuals, but can there be an example where demons can affect a whole group of people, large group of people, let's say, into violence or hateful actions? I mean, very briefly, because time is running out of this program, just as you know, in the news, last night there was some mob of people in London who seemed to be protesting about let's say, they were out already protesting or standing outside Parliament or outside Westminster in UK here. And then the leader of the opposition and her colleague came out of a building where there was a meeting, and then that mob saw them come out, and they took that as an opportunity to give them very severe verbal abuse. And it was said that these people were, it was an opportunity, but they were affected by something that was said by the Prime Minister the week before against this leader of the opposition, who was the one coming out of the building. So there has been denial from, you could say, government saying, oh no, we didn't cause this. It was the individuals themselves, the mob, who made those statements. But Gregory, nothing happens by itself. So could it be possible that this mob was just saying acting by itself, or could it be that they were influenced by something else?
Whenever people resonate with a particular notion or concept, if they resonate very strongly with it, then it's as if they imbibe, they have a line of action, a line of activity. That line of activity is referred to as a thread. Therefore, it's as if a thread of anger of a different category ties or unites all of them. It is that which they now express, as you have just mentioned. That line of anger could have been initiated through one thing or another. But in creation, once you understand that things are dynamic, things are alive, only when you resonate to a particular line of activity or a particular thread, only then do you go ahead to have an effect physically on the environment or the way you care to express yourself. After all, when a goal is scored, without even thinking about it, you just jump up. So I am not sure what has been said by one party or the other. For those who, like radio, tune themselves to such centers of hatred, rightly or wrongly, of anger, rightly or wrongly, of wickedness, of carelessness. There are some who all they need to hear is kill. And without further reflection, tune themselves to these centers where they kill all those along their path.
Thank you for that, Gregory. We've come to the end of the show, listeners. Hope you enjoyed our discussion on Do Demons Exist? And I just want to, because we have the very short time left, I just want to read a very short few words from the Grail Message in the Light of Truth by Abdushin, which is right at the beginning of the Grail Message, and it's titled, Free Yourself from All Darkness. He who makes no effort to grasp the word of the Lord aright burdens himself with guilt. So, listeners, I recommend or advise or encourage you to pick up the Grail Message, examine what it shows to us about life, and opens our eyes to, we could say, the understanding of life. So you're welcome to investigate that yourselves by either going to the this website to get more information on the Grail Message, or to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself. The website is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, message, message.com. Gregory, is there anything you'd like to say goodbye to the listeners?
Wishing everyone, every listener, a beautiful week ahead.
Thank you for that. Yes, listeners, we'll be back next Tuesday as usual. Tuesday is 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time with another topic for our discussion. I wish you a great week. God bless. Take care. Good night, everyone.